Ethanol is an alternative fuel source made of plant materials, typically starches or grains. Its chemical formula is CH3CH2OH. It's a clear liquid that is mixed with gasoline to power cars. Ethanol typically comes from corn, but can also come from other plant matter. Corn undergoes a process called wet milling, wherein it's fermented, and ethanol is extracted from the fermented product. Other grains or starches undergo dry milling, a cheaper method that involves grinding the plant material before it's fermented. Ethanol is currently used as an additive to gasoline. E15 is a solution that is 85% gasoline and 15% ethanol that is currently available at most gas stations. Ethanol produces less emissions than gasoline, so cars using E15 produce less emissions. Another ethanol-gasoline hybrid is E85. E85 is mostly ethanol and is only used in flexible fuel cars. Lignin is a byproduct of the fermentation of ethanol. It's another energy source and is used to power the fermentation plants that produce ethanol. The main goal of using ethanol with gasoline is to reduce fossil fuel emissions because ethanol produces significantly less greenhouse gases than gasoline when burned. Ethanol is currently more expensive than gasoline per unit of energy, but many economists believe that in the future, the cost of corn will be cheaper because the government will create subsidies to support corn growth. A 2012 study at the Argonne National Laboratory showed that lifetime emissions from a car using ethanol as a fuel produces 34% less greenhouse gases than gasoline emissions. Additionally, ethanol produces less carcinogens when burned. This means it has less of a negative environmental impact than gasoline. Ethanol is currently mass-produced in the Midwest because that is where the majority of corn farms are. It's shipped around the country by truck and train. 90% of ethanol is delivered by train, and one rail car can hold 30,000 gallons of it. This system of distribution is adequate for current shipping, but could very realistically be expanded in the future. Ethanol is advantageous because it produces less emissions than gasoline. Humans won't run out of corn like we will run out of oil, and the process of growing corn to produce ethanol absorbs CO2, a greenhouse gas. Ethanol is great, so go down to your nearest station and get some. Disclaimer. Oil lobbies, agricultural lobbies, a dependency on oil as an energy source, and a dependency on oil-producing countries are political barriers in the way of widespread ethanol use. The fact that ethanol is more expensive per unit of energy than gasoline, flexible fuel cars are expensive and not widespread, and corn is not currently subsidized at the rate it needs to be are economic barriers in the way of ethanol use. Ethanol still produces formaldehyde, some CO2, and carbon monoxide when burned that is released into the air, and most cars don't have the technology to burn a majority ethanol fuel source. All information comes from the U.S. Department of Energy.